Welcome to The Good Life with The Last Disciples, where we speak freely, think critically, and live authentically.
Already?
Ha! Yes, please include this.
Can y'all hear the crunching?
Yes.
Very loudly.
We hear it all, bro. Like, we hear it.
Right, what's your fortune say?
Only tears can bring a dreamer back to earth. I don't even know what that means. Hold on. Only tears can bring a dreamer back to earth. I don't know. I'm just throw that away.
Well, I'm about to cry tears if we don't get started, so bless you on your ministry. Let's go. All right. Let me count you down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm Jaleesa.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Bobby.
I'm E-Money.
And I'm Jocelyn.
This is episode 5. Welcome to The Good Life, y'all. What's going on with everybody?
Hey. Everything is good. Yo, y'all, this is episode 5. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I cannot believe we've gotten to this point. How do y'all feel about that one?
Man.
Oh, it's amazing.
Dope.
Awesome.
Crazy.
Come this far by faith.
Hey.
You ready?
You are foolish. But episode 5 is also a really special episode because not only is it the most wonderful time of the year, yep, that's right, Black History Month, but we have another special guest in the building, pastor and community leader, Pastor Will Grandberry of Greater Mount Calvary Holy Church in Washington, D.C., who will be kicking it with us a little bit later during our Heart of the Matter topic. That's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out. DC in the building.
All right. Now it's time for the rundown. But before we do, let's give a quick message about the podcast.
Psst. Psst. Hey, you. Yeah, you. This is Jocelyn, 1/5 of The Last Disciples. Do us a favor and rate us on iTunes. Search The Good Life Podcast. Also, comment on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/The Last Disciples. And now, we're back to the show. So what's going on, y'all? What's going on? It's Black History Month and the month of Valentine's Day. There's a lot going on. Did anybody do anything special?
Yeah. No, I did something special for my girlfriend this year. It was like for me, it was like a second Christmas / Valentine's Day because there were certain things I couldn't get done for Christmas. So I said, hey, I got Valentine's Day in February, so let me just pile on the goods during that time. But no, I'd given her, you know, a good amount of stuff that she had asked for. And then at the very bottom of the bag, I put a note in like a box. It's like a small box. And the box was like, said love. And then it like opens up in Velcro. And then it said, for Amber from Ryan. And then it said a price tag because the box was supposed to be for something else. So I just put priceless. And so then it has an arrow to turn over to the back. And when it turned over to the back, I basically was like, hey, babe, I love you. I intend to spend the rest of my life with you. But first, I need to know what kind of rings you like. Would you like to go ring viewing with me? Yes, no, or maybe.
Oh,
and so she said, yeah. So we just went down to the district, to Diamond District, and we was looking at rings, having fun, just like figuring out. I never learned so much about rings ever before. And so we were just learning about rings.
Yeah.
It was like so much. Like
Wow.
4 C's. Y'all heard about that? The 4 C's? I was like, what?
Carrot.
Yeah.
Cut, carrot, and something else?
Yeah, I just learned this. I need my notebook.
Come on, Skin. Be ready.
No?
I was writing notes for real. I was not playing. I was writing notes.
Good man.
So it was definitely a special Valentine's Day for us in New York City.
Dope.
Well,
awesome.
just give me an invitation to the wedding,
Man, look.
and we'll be all good.
We'll be there.
But
What
if
color
you
I
don't-
need.
Yeah,
Straight
that's
up.
what
preachers.
color I need. Need me to pray. Need me to anoint.
No, come on.
Need me to
What
bring
am
the
I doing?
oil.
That's
Right. What am I doing?
What do you need?
Well,
You
what-
need
am
music?
I on
You
the
need a
program?
preacher?
Come on.
You got everybody.
Yeah, we do it all.
Bobby's
over
a
here.
pastor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Officiate.
You already know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Right.
good.
We got the music on lock.
Man,
Right.
we ready.
That's awesome, Ryan.
This Valentine's Day was before we were like, are we getting each other gifts this year? Because my wife and I, we paid to go to a marriage retreat at the Ritz-Carlton in Tyson's Corner. So that was our gift to each other because that was a little pricey expenditure. But that's what we did. We spent the weekend with a lot of other married folk, learned some stuff about marriage and all of the good stuff to how to maintain a marriage. Because one thing somebody said is, the marriage starts after the wedding. So you always got to be reminded of how to maintain it. But our Valentine's Day, we spent at the Ritz, had a good time, and we just, there was this band and they were dope. The lead singer from Chic was there. Amazing. Oh yeah.
I'll comment on the marriage retreat piece because although I'm not married yet, I look forward to being one day. And Cascade had a a marriage retreat, marriage enrichment weekend, kind of the same as a retreat. And Saturday they had a seminar where Esther from one of the local area churches came and led a powerful seminar on marriage and talked about a lot of different parts of it and how to maintain a healthy marriage and talk about those parts that people don't like to talk about: communication, money, sex, intimacy, all those things. And so that was really informative. Like you, Ryan, I had my notebook, so I was taking notes. So that was really good and helpful and just giving me a view, and it really inspiring too, because it showed an image that a lot of media don't show, and that is of both healthy married couples and of married couples who are striving to get even better. So that was really cool.
B, can you share those notes if you can?
Sure.
Yeah, I would love to read those.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. So as we just mentioned, it's Black History Month. So let's share about who are some of you all's Black History heroes. Who is an inspiring Black History hero for you?
I actually try to find those like unsung heroes in Black history. So those people that, we really don't talk about. And last year, I saw a documentary called Unbossed and Unbought, and it was about Shirley Chisholm, and that's who was a Black history hero for me. People know her, but we don't really talk about her as much, but she was so influential in regards to Blacks asserting themselves in the political realm. I mean, she was the first Black and the first woman to run for president. And that is pretty astounding. She was the first woman in Congress, and that documentary, I suggest everyone to watch it. It was so inspiring because you just see her go through all of these things, because the women's rights movement was happening at the time as well. So it was, trying to fit in there, but the Black Power movement was happening there. She's getting death threats. She's, she's perceived a particular way because she is a woman. Like, how dare you run for president as a Black woman, right? And she was unapologetically Black. So
come on,
she's an amazing woman, and just shout out to Shirley Chisholm and just all that she's done for us in politics and particularly for women. So shout out to her.
Oh.
Yeah, for me, I put I was thinking James Baldwin, and actually on my cell phone there's like a picture of him just like smoking a cigarette. I don't know why I love that picture so much, but I do. But I mean, he was just like brilliant. Like when I think that the situations of the African American community and minorities in general is a very complicated situation. Like, how do we get here? How do we fix it? What's going on? How does it really affect us? And when I listen to him, or I read things from him, it's like, wow, I understand it so much simpler. He's like able to break it down, and not a quote, but a video that I think of that I love to share is he was talking on a talk show, and he was just like, white America doesn't want it to be called racism, but what is it called? Like, what should I call it? All I know is that what I see, and what I see is that we're marginalized, see that the housing, there's housing discrimination, that we're more unemployed, that we die at an earlier rate. So it's like, if you don't want to call it racism, fine, but you can't deny that these things exist. And so what do you call it? And I just was like, that was just like brilliant. Like, just like playing the game with them, but making them like look themselves and be like, well, what is that? Because he's not making these numbers up. He's not making these inconsistencies up. So yeah, I
think I'd agree with Jaleesa's point to women and the importance of just the empowerment of women. And I think of two women in particular. One is Maya Angelou and her quote, yes, Yes, that's my boo. Her quote from the poem "Grandmothers," which I actually have part of it on my IG bio because it just means so much to me. But I come along, but I stand as 10,000. And then if it follows with, when you learn, teach, when you give, get. As for me, I shall not be moved. And so the poem is about, the poem is about a mother trying to take her children from slavery. And they're going through you can kind of picture the imagery in the poem, and she's talking to her children, and they're, asking her mama, is master going to come and sell you tomorrow? And she's saying, yeah, if we don't move. But and not in the sense of, she uses the word move to mean so many things. So I shall not be moved from my standpoint of standing for what is true to me and making sure that you don't suffer the way I have. But also I shall not be moved in the sense that you can't stay stagnant. You have to keep pushing. You have to keep going.
That's good.
So there's so many people who've done things for you that you don't stand alone. No matter if you're the only person standing in the room, you have so many people behind you that have pushed and prayed for you. So never feel alone. And then also Eartha Kitt, man.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, Lisa.
Girl.
I'm glad girl. Yes. Yes.
Oh my
I love me some Eartha Kitt, honey.
I love her. Oh my
yes.
goodness. Okay, yeah, we're on the same page. We're on the same
page.
No.
And her, I don't know if y'all have seen the clip, but there's like a clip of like this guy interviewing her, and he's talking about, you know what I'm talking about, Lisa? Yes, boo, yes.
That ministered to me. Like,
yes, talk about it, yes.
Oh, but go ahead. I'm just your amen corner.
I need that. Put that
yes. Yeah, I'm gonna send it. But there's this guy interviewing her, and he's talking about compromising as a result of a union or a relationship, and he's saying without saying, you are a woman, you should compromise in a relationship if you want to be married or if you want to have love. And she hysterically laughs at him, and it's like, why do I need to compromise? And the quote that I want to use from that clip is, I fall in love with myself, and I want someone to share it with me. I want someone to share me with me. So not having to change who you are. Obviously, there are things that we learn about ourselves that we find are not perfect, but the shaping that women tend to have to do to fit into society and into a relationship is completely unnecessary. You know what I mean? And so finding the importance of first loving yourself and then joining with someone who loves you as much as you love you.
Right. And that brings me to my quote, that one of my favorite, as we're quoting our favorite Black history heroes, that brings me to my favorite quote by Shirley Chisholm. And she says, the emotional, sexual, and psychological stereotyping of females begins when the doctor says it's a girl.
Yes.
And that touched me so much because it goes back to the clip of Eartha Kitt talking about compromise. And then in that clip, she says, you don't ask men to compromise, but you ask a woman to compromise her success, to compromise her life in general, her goals in order to be married. And I remember looking at this Facebook meme, Facebook got so many memes out there. And it was like, a woman gives up her name, her body, and it named all the things that a woman gives up in order to have a family. And that was so powerful to me because, it's true, and so even in my life's work, and I do consider myself a feminist or a womanist, as some folks say, how can we eradicate that, right? How can we be able to still be fully women and be able to experience life in a full way without having to compromise in a way where we lose ourselves? And so Eartha Kitt and Shirley Chisholm and Maya Angelou are women that exude that, and shout out to them. Oh my God, I love them.
Yes.
Yeah, if I can speak to the last name part, that as a man, I've always was, intrigued to talk about the hyphen and things like that, why people do it. Always good. But when it became personal for me is when my sister changed her name. And when it pops up as nothing, I love the guy. It's nothing about the guy. Their marriage is awesome and beautiful. But when the name is different than what I knew her as, it's like, but we gave so much to the upbringing of you. As your brother, I did so much. My dad did so much. My mom did so much. The Davis family did so much. And now it's not even existent. Now the people who meet you moving forward won't even know that we are a part of who you are today. Yeah. And it was I was telling Amber, I was like, look, if we go on to have girls, I'm telling them hyphen, because it's I refuse to just let that be like erased simply because she got married. And I don't know, it really became personal. Like, again, nothing against the guy, but when I see her name pop up and it's not Davis, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's just not fair. So
Yeah.
No, that's real. I think, as a woman, I struggle with that. If I, not if and when, but when I get married, will I take on the full last name of my partner? And I don't necessarily know if I will. I'm not saying maybe a hyphen ministry is going to have to be a part of that. but especially, when I get my doctorate and things like that, let's say I'm not married at that point, but I like my last name. And especially in honor of my father, my late father, it's just my last name means so much. And so for me, I struggle, that's just me,
That's real. I mean, because there was a legacy before a man came along. And the legacy must be continued even after the man. So there's a dual part of the legacy that must live on. So.
Yeah. And I think it's the importance of men speaking up to say, yo, this, maybe we should talk about this. This doesn't have to be this way. That, like, if you only hear a one-sided argument, like, you know what I'm saying? Me and Lee's talking about how the importance of empowering women and young ladies to know their importance and know how much that they, that they can do anything that anyone in the world can do. They also need to hear it from their dads. They also need to hear it from their male teachers, from their grandfathers, from the men in their lives, so that they know that they can be loved just as they are, and not have to shrink and cower to be married.
Yes, that's when true change comes.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Black history, now that we talked about our Black history heroes, let's bring it a little forward to today. Let's talk about this formation ministry. Let's talk about that. There was a formation in my spirit that just really resonated with me.
Come on, some hot sauce in your bag.
Hot sauce in my bag, okay? Like, let's just talk about it. So it blessed me, right? So here's the thing. Let me just break this down for y'all. So I've always respected Beyonce as an artist. I think she is one of the hardest working people, not just women, people in the music industry. I mean, she does it all, and she does it all well. And when Beyonce does something, people stop and listen, right? Like, she definitely calls attention. But as far as being a beehiver, as far as being like someone who buys all her albums, but I'm not really a fan in that way. I've always felt like I was looking for more from her, because she's such an artist on a big platform. It was, I need you to give me something that's going to start conversation and really be controversial. And she did that with this video. Did y'all see this video?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't it awesome? And then the fact that she did it at the Super Bowl with her dancers and with 4C hair. Jocelyn, you know what I'm talking about.
Come on. You
with
already
4C
know, I know.
hair, with that curl pattern on 4C, with those berets. It was just everything. And I mean, of course, as a woman, as a Black woman, of course, I'm definitely here for it. But I mean, as guys, what did y'all think about it? Did y'all have thoughts about it?
Well, I'll say that I didn't hear about the video until right before the Super Bowl, when everybody was talking about it. So I got to see the Super Bowl performance before I saw the video. And so I'll speak from that angle. And the performance was powerful. I mean, Beyonce, just as like you said, Swanks, as a person, as an artist, is just dynamic. I mean, she just carries this fire, and whenever she wants to make a message known, I mean, it's powerful. So her own power, her own strength, and then you talk about that with the empowering message of Black women that she brought, with the berets and what a lot of people didn't catch was the throwback that she had to Michael Jackson, with her out form. So she just brought power and strength, and her own fire just came out in a way that is only her. So it was amazing. It was amazing, and I was really inspired by it. Also, to the video, it was amazing to see the way that she took kind of historical parts that African Americans would be depicted in and kind of flipped it in a very affirming way. Like with the Victorian look that she had, she took that and made it very empowering, because African Americans at that time, you wouldn't see us in those types of roles and in very positive light. So she's just dynamic. And I mean, it's just really powerful artistry, kind of reminds me of Kanye West. I mean, very pointed and very dynamic in the way that she illustrated. So I thought it was pretty amazing.
What I like is that this was really something in a long time in the making anyway, because little do people know is that Beyonce is a big behind the scenes person in the Black Lives Matter movement. She's big on donating money, big on making her time available to the people that need it. And it is crazy because a lot of times, especially in the world we live in, the things that need to go viral never go viral. And then the things that don't need to go viral go viral. And then there's all these opinions that's going out about this. But so Beyonce was woke a long time ago, and this song is just a manifesto of all of that put into a platform bigger than herself. And I really appreciated that because so many people, you know, they don't use their platform accordingly or as they should. And I appreciated Beyonce was just representing for us one time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just love that it was Beyonce because when Black women lead, it's like 2 for 1. You know, it empowers the Black community, but it empowers women as well. And so I just love that it was Beyonce as the one who can to be able to do this, to come out with a video like that, a song like that, a performance like that. I mean, I was definitely excited.
All right, so I'm gonna stick with the Super Bowl. Let's talk about Cam Newton for a little bit. I mean, Cam Newton got a lot of press prior to the Super Bowl. I mean, the Panthers are famous for the dab. They got Ron Rivera dabbing, the owner dabbing, the entire team dabbing, all of North Carolina dabbing. And Cam Newton is just you better dab on him, Jaleesa.
I missed it. Where the dab?
And
look at my dab. Hey, look at my dab.
There was so much press about Cam Newton and how confident he was in his ability. And there were so many remarks that, he's a thug because he dances, because he gets into the end zone. And I remember specifically in the middle of the season, he said, quote, if you don't like me dancing, keep me out the end zone. And he lost the Super Bowl. They lost a really bad Super Bowl. He performed not as good as I expected, but that's neither here or there. And at the end of the Super Bowl, he greeted Peyton Manning. They shared their love and their story. And after that, the press conference, he was upset. He was visibly upset, very short-worded with answering the questions. Yes, no, I don't know. They played better. You get the point. And people just talked down so bad about Cam because, one, he was confident in his ability. But then when he lost, he was very sad that he lost. And I'm not trying to make this a black and white thing. But nobody made such a big deal when Peyton Manning lost his Super Bowl to the New Orleans Saints. And he did not go to the middle of the field and greet Drew Brees or Sean Payton when he lost to them. But Cam Newton, he lost a graceful loss, and he greeted Peyton Manning, and it's this big old deal because he doesn't want to speak at the end of the press conference. What are you guys' feelings about the portrayal of that?
Yeah, and he walked out. That's when everyone really was like, "Oh my gosh, he walked out on the media," you know, as if sportsmanship is 100% about, or even includes like media. Mm-hmm. I think sportsmanship includes who you're playing against. But my biggest thing is, in short, it is a race thing, whether people want to believe it or not, and it's just about Cam Newton is not given, and other black athletes are not given the same amount of grace as Peyton Manning and other athletes. That's really all it is. Because I'm not saying Cam Newton's 100% correct on walking out. I mean, it's part of being a professional. Yeah, there were other Denver Broncos in the same room, and I definitely know how upsetting that can be. But it's like any little thing, and you get no grace as a black athlete. Whereas as a white one, Peyton Manning doesn't even, shake hands with anybody, and he's like, he's just, he really wanted to win. It's okay, forgive him. It's like, why can't we get the same level of forgiveness?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would just agree with everything you mentioned, Ryan, as far as the lack of grace for African American athletes, especially ones who don't fit the mold of what wider society expects of athletes or quarterbacks. And absolutely. Cam has spoken to this on a number of different cases, and it's a reminder that with sports, and this is, just how I look at the world, that there always is a bigger narrative going on, and you always want to be in touch with what is happening and who is playing the roles in that narrative. Cam has alluded to the fact that, and he spoke about this in the 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, that nobody's ever seen anything like me. Nobody's ever seen anything to compare me to as an African-American quarterback who is excellent in throwing and in passing. And so, people fear what they don't understand. And so it's really easy to crucify somebody who makes you uncomfortable. And Cam represents that. So yeah, I could go on, but I think those are my basic thoughts.
All true, y'all. All true. Now it's time for
Love
So many things I think I know, and other things I think I don't. But the only thing I know for sure is you'll never know if you don't try and see how it goes.
All right, here we go. As we mentioned, it's Black History Month and the month of Valentine's Day. So the Good Life Podcast has dubbed this month Black Love Month.
Ooh,
Hey.
come on, Black
I love
Love.
that. Black
Yeah.
yes.
So since it is, let's kick it off with our first live letter from Janelle. Hey, Janelle.
What's up?
Hey, Janelle.
What's up, boo?
Hey, Janelle.
So Janelle asked, what do you do if someone has been asking to take you out on a date for a while, always to your decline or pass? When you finally agree to go, the date is poorly planned and not thoughtful at all. Should you go through with it? What do you think?
I'll say I understand why she feels some type of way.
Mm-hmm.
Because if this guy has been asking you out for a while, which lets me know it's probably been more than a month, so he's probably consistently have asked her out. And when you finally, he hits the jackpot and you finally say yes, he doesn't have a plan, that doesn't add up to me. I can't speak for all women, but I can speak for many women. And one of our pet peeves is when a guy says, what do you want to do? It might seem thoughtful, but if you've asked me out, I would hope that you already have something planned. That shows a woman that you've taken the initiative to think about her in a very caring and compassionate way to say, you know what, I'm going to plan this out. And the girl has probably planned out all of her life, so she wouldn't mind if a guy planned something out for her. So I do agree with her that I would probably tell him, what's up? What's going on? I'll probably have a conversation with him about it and be real about it. Not hurt his feelings, but, let him know how I felt. Those are my
I
thoughts.
concur.
Yeah. You want to go ahead? E?
Yeah, I concur. I mean, I'm married, so my dating game is a little bit different. But there's been times when I ask my wife out, and then I'm like, oh, crap, I ain't playing as good as I thought. Or vice versa. She asks me out, we can't go. And then when we go out, it's like, whatever. But yeah, to no fault, I would be like, yo, this is not the best date ever. You might be able to get one more chance. But yeah, I think I say go through it, because even though it may have been not the best planned date, there may be a chance at redemption. Because you just never know what may have happened. I just like this to give the benefit of a doubt. Yeah.
I gotta go at least. I mean, I think that, no, I feel you, E. Like, we can be gracious and give another shot to folks, like, for sure. But, like, if you've been asking me out for a long time, and I'm gonna give a little context, it's been over a year, and, yeah. And so you're asking the same person to go out. They're always saying no. They finally they finally agree to go out, and then, like, I have to agree. I love for people to ask me what I like to do, but once I've told you what I like to do, be creative. Like,
Yes.
be creative. Like, take it and run to the moon with it. Like, I mean,
Yes.
come on. Like, and okay, I'm gonna be straight up. If you've been asking me out for a year,
Yes.
and then when we finally go somewhere, it's poorly planned, that lets me know that your life is probably poorly planned.
Well,
you've been planning this for
Well,
over
Don't
a
lump them in
year.
a bucket.
Well,
Don't lump them in a bucket.
you know what,
do
Josh?
it.
I am your amen. corner.
Come on.
I am your amen corner on this here podcast episode, because you are speaking the utmost truth.
Especially with so much
Time
beforehand.
Yes.
Thinking about taking this woman out for a long time. Like, you should have the whole nine. Like, man, when I can finally take her out, I'm gonna have this ready. And it doesn't have to be expensive, but be thoughtful. Be thoughtful.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, when you put that in perspective, a year,
A
my
year.
nigga, for real?
It's Black
Where they
History
do
Month, you
that
said.
at?
yes.
Like, if you have an entire year to plan a date, that needs to be the best date she gonna freaking remember. I mean, now it's time to go in, because I mean, if I get if you've been asking for a couple of weeks, maybe a month, I'm gonna go a month max, and she denied you, and you finally get the date. I can I ain't gonna even say I understand completely, but I could kind of get a fumble. But a year, my dude, that means that that means you just been preparing for a Netflix and chill and not a forever. I mean, if you're asking her out for a year, what is your expectations? There's a 5 piece. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. If you prepare properly, then your performance could have got you beyond just this week date.
You preaching. You preaching.
That was a word.
That was a word. So the
where
collection
is your
plate.
organ for yourself?
Right.
Yes. Come on, Oregon.
Hey,
We
but
need
if
it.
I can just chime in for a difference of opinion here.
All right. All right.
I hear everything that has been said, but me personally, in terms of what I view are my talents in dating, it's not necessarily the planning where we're going, but it's the conversation and it's the humor, and that's just it. You know, that's it. If it's the ride over and the date is me driving you to your job because that's the only time that you've given me, I will make sure that the conversation is so good that you're going to give me a real date. And so what I'm saying is it doesn't really matter where, if it's poorly planned in the sense of like, you know, something like, I don't even know, like somewhere where she's allergic and she don't even like this food or something like that. I don't know. So unthoughtful in the sense what I mean, like where it's just like, are you kidding me? I can't even partake in this. But if it's like thoughtful and just like, you know, I don't know. I don't know really much specifics, but my point is he can still get a lot of points by what he does while he's there, what he says. Maybe his planning is, well, I'm going to ask her about this. I'm going to ask her about this. I want to talk about this. Maybe that was his level of planning. Maybe that's where all his thinking came in, was driving the conversation. Because at the end of the day, I can take you to the Eiffel, I can take you to Paris and you'll have a terrible time if I can't talk. If I don't bring up something that is relevant to the way that you think, what makes your wheels turn? I mean, we're motivated by our desires, you know, not necessarily by a place or food. You know what I mean? It's like a desire. So if I can pick at your desires, it doesn't matter where we go, I'm still going to get that second date. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Because the
Yeah,
conversation must have been wet.
I would chime in on that point as well. And let me just say some stuff up front. Is that I am a person who is very intentional about planning when it comes to dating. So this is not necessarily what I would do, but I would totally agree with where Ryan is coming from as far as when you're with somebody. My experience, and it's only my experience, has been what is most important is the connection, is the relationship. So yeah, you don't want to be totally unthoughtful. Yeah, you don't want to take her to a place where she's, you know, got an allergy or she's like scared for her life. That's not good at all. But you know, it's not like if that there's a difference between being unthoughtful and you being thoughtful and something breaks down, you know, where, you know, the place you thought was going to be open closed and you didn't know about it, or the food wasn't as good as you thought it was. That relationship, that conversation can still exactly spark something really amazing, really powerful, because what does make a relationship last is that chemistry. So yeah, you may have to jump a couple more hoops when it comes to humor or conversation because, you know, your stuff is whack. But if your game is tight and, you know, you've done the work in listening to her and showing interest in who she is and what she's about and seeing where that connection is, chemistry can overcome unpreparation, in my experience, in my opinion. Give you a perfect example. So before the Super Bowl, since we were talking about it on CBS, and the anchor was asking them about their first date and, you know, brought up the fact that when they first went out, Barack was driving in a car that had a hole in it. And, if, imagine what Michelle was thinking when she saw, oh my God, there's a hole in his car. What am I doing? But, you know, in the midst of their driving to wherever they were going, you know, his conversation, his charm, his humor, his interest in her won her over to the point where she said, I'll give him a second date, and look at where they are now.
There it is.
Yeah. So
There it
it's not that you don't, for me, it's not that you want to go in without a plan, but even when your plan breaks down, you can overcome it. I think that's what I wanted to say to that point.
Can I just chime in for
I
a quick
agree.
second? Just a quick second. Everyone loves to bring up Barack and Michelle's beginnings. I mean, especially brothers out there that might not have
not
much,
planned.
right? Right. But first of all, Barack was at Harvard Law. Let's put that in there real quick, right?
Right.
So that already showed promise. But other than that, Barack planned that date, okay? He said we're going to go take a walk. He said we're going to go see Do the Right Thing. He said we're going to sit on this stoop and have ice cream. He even planned, despite the hole in his car, he planned the date with Michelle. And so this young man that we're talking about seemed like he ain't have no plan. And we're not, and once again, that's the difference, y'all. And so, when we talk about Barack and Michelle, we gotta put those other key facts in there. And he was intentional about her. And he's been intentional about her even to this day. Yes. And so, Dross, can I get an amen on this?
Amen.
So we got
what are your intentions? If it's poorly planned, you have no intention.
But you don't know that if you don't go through with the date. So I'm just gonna say I vote go through with it.
I'm gonna say if you have. I'm sorry. If you have if it's been we can agree.
We can agree together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
because I don't agree with that ministry.
And it's not a male-female thing either. You can see some difference of opinion between.
I've planned some bomb ass dates just for some cat, but.
College Eric talking.
College
in the building.
College Eric talking.
He has arrived.
He has arrived, y'all. He is officially here.
He's here. Easy E in the building.
Easy E in the building.
All right. Good first live letter. Our second live letter is from Jackson. What up, Jackson?
What's up, Jackson?
What up, Jackson? Sorry, Mr.
So Jackson wants to know, what are some tips for single folks during this self-proclaimed month of love? Very good and relevant question, Jackson. I feel you. I'll speak to this one first because that's where I am in my journey. And one of the things that has been really helpful and affirming for me is to think about and to be reflective and be grateful for all the different manifestations of love in your life. Valentine's Day is a day that has become associated with romantic love. And romantic love is beautiful. It's important. I've been in love before. It's a wonderful thing. But it is only one type of love, So one of the things I've learned to appreciate is just, in my prayer time or in my walking about, my conversation, to be mindful and thankful for all the different ways that I experience love in my life, top of, God's love for me, my family's love for me, for friends, like I have here and like I have in different places, for my church that loves me and who cares about me. And so sometimes I find it helpful to have a wider view and wider appreciation of the love that we have, and not to get focused on only one type, because there's so many experiences that we can have love. So that's what I do. And that's what's been helpful for me.
I love that, B.
That's
and
good.
I would, it was awesomely shared. And I would just add, if you haven't taken the time, I know that we sometimes get so caught up in like, who am I dating? Or like, there was a point where I always had, like, even if I wasn't in a relationship, I always had somebody that could take me out on a date, like that I was just kind of talking to or kicking it with. And like, it wasn't until I had an aha moment. I was like, I've never just spent time with me and God. Like, it's never been just me and God with nobody else in the picture. And so I just took a good year and a half and like told everybody, yo, you was cool. Can't text you no more. We can't go out no more. I'm taking some time to myself. And, really just learned how to love myself, like learned what I like. You know what I mean? I was like 22, so I wasn't the same person that I was when I left home. You know what I mean? So I like relearned what I like, relearned what I like and what I don't like, and what is tolerable for me and what is not tolerable for me, what bothers me, what makes me feel good, just relearning who I am. And I would say for anybody who hasn't done that yet, it's such an amazing journey to figure out who you are, and then to not only figure out who you are, but begin to really, like, we talk about self-love all the time, but like, do you like yourself? Like, all of that, do you like who you are? And if not, work on some things. If so, continue to build yourself up. But self-love is also, it's important to like yourself as well as love yourself.
That's right. One of the things that my friends would do, on Valentine's Days, we would just have like a Valentine's Day dinner together. You know, when I was single,
cool.
me and my single girlfriends would get together and love on each other.
Yes.
You know, have a
Yeah.
good dinner, have some real black love, you know, black girl magic, and just, you know, and share and laugh and joke. And, you know, like Bobby said, there's no, you know, romantic love is just one type of love. You know, you probably have friendships and different things like that. So finding different ways to exude other types of love during this month will be very helpful for you, and, you know, in addition to self-love. So I would say that to Jackson.
Agreed.
Awesome. So today is a special day. We have a third question, y'all. And this one is from Anonymous.
Hey, Anonymous.
What's up,
good?
Anonymous?
Right. Hey, Anonymous.
Hey, no name.
Right.
It says, "Hey, Last Disciples. I've been dating this guy for 3 years. We're engaged, madly in love, and we're getting married in a few months. Although we're both in church, living a Christian lifestyle, I am still working on forgiving myself for not honoring God with my body so many years ago. I am still learning to be happy and trust myself, but sometimes I feel like I'm not worthy of marriage or God's grace or mercy. How do I get over this hump?" Wow, this is deep. Who's going to be the first one to take that?
I will take a stab at this. Most of you all of you all know that prior to marriage, I was the one who was sexually active, and my wife decided to save herself until marriage. So throughout our entire dating stage, there was no cat, as I previously referred. But I had some of these same feelings like, yo, you know, I got it in and she didn't, you know, I decided not to wait, and I'm the one who's bringing all of this baggage and so-called trash into this marriage. How do I forgive myself? And the one thing that I really had to do was I went to the Word first and foremost. I repented. Like, yeah, I made a mistake, and this mistake, although it's with my body, no sin is greater than any other. So while I did fornicate and while I did have premarital sex, I had to first forgive myself for making that mistake. And it wasn't easy because it's like, man, I realized that she's doing this wonderful sacrifice, and then there's so many different things that we can avoid if I had decided to do this or decided not to do something. But you can't hold yourself captive to your past. I mean, you're deciding that you're going to start a future. So the first thing you do, you know, before you say I do is before you say I do to someone else, you have to say I do to yourself. I do forgive myself. I do believe that I am okay. I do believe that God can cleanse me. You know,
That's
I
good.
do in the power of God first and foremost, because you mentioned God in here, so that's why I'm bringing him in the picture. And the marriage ministry that I'm a part of is that it takes three. It takes God, it takes a man, and then it takes a wife. It takes a husband and a wife. A lot of people reference marriages or relationships as 50-50. I don't do that. I do 100-100. So me and my relationship, we got 200% going on because I'm not half of nothing. So you have to get yourself.
I like that.
Get yourself in a complete place. Like, I'm okay with my mistakes. I'm okay with my sin. Everybody has a sin. So your sin may have been fornicating. Somebody else's might be alcoholism, but you can't look at someone different because they sin different than you, and you can't isolate yourself because you sin different than someone else. So my biggest point is to get yourself in a place of trusting and knowing that God can forgive you of that, and then focus on your marriage, then focus on everything that comes after the wedding.
I think one of the things that come to mind when we deal with issues of sin or mistakes is that we go to God in fear instead of favor, right? So we look at God as this big judgmental monster, right? That is really looking at us with the stink eye, like, oh, look what you did. But that's not who God is. And that's not how he sees us. I always, anytime I pray, I always say, God, I'm so glad that you look at my promise, not my problems. And I think that for this young lady or woman who's writing this, you have to first think about that and really take that into consideration, that you know, God doesn't look at us like that. Like, God doesn't have the same judgment system that we as humans do, right? So humans is like, man, if you do me wrong, I'm doing you wrong. Or, you know, if you did this, like something bad, like you don't deserve this because you did this, you know, you did whatever it is that's bad. That's not how God works. You know what I mean? He doesn't look at it like that. You know, we are the biggest accusers of ourselves. And so once you understand that God looks at you through the lens of favor, once you understand that what you have is what God feels that you deserve, then you'll be able to walk in that freedom that you deserve to walk in. You know what I mean? And so I think this listener has to change her perspective, number one, on how God sees themselves. That's number one. And two, once you understand that, take the time to just start meditating on that. Speaking those positive affirmations to yourself, and maybe talk to your partner about it. This is how I feel. What are your thoughts? You know what I mean? And because, it should be a conversation that you're getting married that both of you guys should dialogue about, and both of you guys should come to some consensus on. So that's what I would say to Anonymous. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's beautifully said. I would agree with both of what Eric and you said, Swanks. And I just want to take what you said to another level when it comes to how we look at God and what our image for God is, because I think that's really important and something that I'm learning quickly as a pastor is very important when we think about not only our relationship with God, but also how we see ourselves, right? And that's really where Anonymous is that she's in a place where she sees herself because of the way that she sees God in this very judgmental way. And I just want to take what you mentioned and just, add an image to it. And that's when, the image of the Father in the parable of the prodigal son that Jesus tells, right? And so often we think that the prodigalness or the wastefulness or the extravagance of the person in that story is the wealth that the son took. He got his inheritance early and he left and he went to a far country and spent it all and got himself in trouble, got himself so poor he was eating pig from a pig's trough. But the real revelation in that story is that the grace that the father shows the son is what is really extravagant, what is really out of this world, what is really crazy. That, even as the child, the son is coming back wondering, how am I going to get back into my dad's house? I've messed it all up. I've just torn everything up. The dad is there waiting at the front of this road with open arms, waiting for his son. And so that's how God looks at us, so we'll just add that to what you said, Swanks, that having a right image of God is very, very important. And I think when it comes to our own feelings of worth, that having an image that is rooted in God's unconditional love and grace before we were even born is so important, and it's healing. It's really, really healing.
If I could just add a quick word, y'all. When I heard you talking, E, I heard using the I affirmations, and I would like to add for Anonymous, I am worthy, because I saw that you used, I feel like I'm not worthy of marriage, but saying I am worthy. And to your point, Bobby, about the prodigal son, I think that our image of God, because we hear so much about God being our father, I think that sometimes our image of God is shaped by our own interactions with our parents or fathers. And if you have a father or some parent or some guardian who is very judgmental in their approach of you, we kind of project that onto the way that we feel God is for us. And that's not the case. It's just not the case. God is madly in love with us, welcomes us back with open arms at any point. We can always have a conversation. There's a scripture that talks about how God wills himself or God's self to be found by us. God wants to be found. God wants to have a relationship.
That's good.
So
That's good.
Just understanding that no matter what, their relationship cannot be broken, no matter what. And God is always there to welcome you back with open arms.
That's good.
Well, thanks for these awesome live letters, y'all. Live letters is where we want to hear from you. So if you haven't sent us a question or idea, hit us up. Send us some questions at that's THEE, Last Disciples at gmail.com. Or you can message us on Facebook at facebook.com/THEE Last Disciples. Speaking of live letters, we asked our listeners to send us a voice memo describing in one word what the good life means to them. And we heard some pretty dope messages. So before we jump into our Heart of the Matter topic with our guest, Pastor Will, let's check them out.
am Carmen from Atlanta, Georgia. Woo woo. And the good life means to me joy.
What does the good life mean to you?
Why are you saying like that?
Hi, my name is Kiara from Toronto. The good life means pure happiness, mental stability.
Hi, I'm Yvonne from Philadelphia. The good life to me means being able to express yourself.
My name is Janae. I'm from Syracuse, New York, and the good life to me means being fearless.
Hi, my name is Trevor, and I'm from LA, and the good life means to me stress-free contentment.
My name is Richard from Silver Spring, Maryland, and what does the good life mean to me? It means happiness.
Hi, my name is Crystal, and I'm from Miami, Florida, and to me, the good life means impact.
Hi, my name is Jonathan, and I'm from Portsmouth, Virginia. And what the good life means to me is self-love.
Hello, my name is Ebony, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. And to me, the good life is joy.
Hi, my name is Jonathan from Atlanta, Georgia. And the good life to me is love.
Hi, I'm Jared from Silver Spring, Maryland, and what the good life means to me is peaceful.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I'm from Atlanta, and the good life means to me is the truth.
Hey y'all, it's Erica from Louisville, Kentucky, and to me, the good life is acceptance.
If you would like to let us know what the good life means to you, send us a voice memo at thelastdisciples@gmail.com. That's THEE lastdisciples@gmail.com. And remember, the Good Life Podcast, where you can speak freely, think critically, and live authentically.
Wow, that was good stuff. Definitely shout out to all our listeners. Appreciate you all participating in that. Now we are back with our Heart of the Matter. This is a Heart of the Matter. Dun, dun. Today our topic is Black Love Matters. How to create an affirming space in the midst of brutality.
That's good.
All right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. All right, y'all. Y'all ready to get started?
Let's get in it.
All right, let's go. Again, today we have Pastor Will Grandberry of Greater Mount Calvary Holy Church in the building with us today. Let's welcome Pastor Will to the show, y'all. Yay!
Yay! Welcome, Pastor Will.
Yes, I feel the welcome. I feel the love. That's what's up.
Glad to have you.
Again, welcome to the show, Pastor Will. How you doing today?
I am great. I wish I could have been seen and see you guys, but I can hear. So thank God for all of my senses in this point.
All right. That's what's up. Thank you for hanging out with us. Now, Pastor Will, our episode today is about the importance of Black love. What do those words mean to you when they're put together? And how important is it that Black love exists? How important is that word?
Well, one, of course, again, I'm excited about being on the show, and also excited that you guys are even addressing such a topic and the concepts as Black love, because I think from a social media perspective, as well as like a worldwide reality, people are in some way seeping and justifying infatuation with love. And so the notion of liking something very strong or trending or everything that in some way goes based upon the majority is some way how we view love, period, let alone Black love. And coming from slavery to Jim Crow to what we call post-racial society, Black love is crucial, primarily because a lot of our realities, we've been in some way branded to be like the majority. And in some way, our identity has been shifted, and we've not taken true credence as to who we are as the one God has created. And so there's not been a lot of self-affirmation. There's not been a lot of self-respect or dignity, for that matter. Our lives have been solely emulating and imitating things that we've seen. So Black love for me is more so of a appropriate word for individuals that have, you got to be careful even saying the Black experience, because now, people put makeup on and hair and they said they're Black.
Come on. Are we saying names?
Come on,
Not putting no elbows. But I think that is very critical for our African Americans or people of color who have really identified with a Black experience to in some way know that in the period of post modernity or post racial society that there's still a need for one to love oneself, and Black is beautiful in that we don't have to in some way look like the next person, but our skin color or our hair texture or the way we are is enough. Is who God has created us to be. And I think that that's very crucial for our own affirmation.
That's good. That's
I love
good.
that. Pastor Will, you just talked a lot about self-love, and that's something that's very important to me, as I think it is to the other members of the Last Disciples.
Yeah.
What are some ways that we can commit to loving ourselves and then showing love to others?
One of the things that I work on, I think, growing up now is honesty. I think a lot of times we struggle in various areas because we don't want to be honest with ourselves. So it's very hard to even enter into a friendship or a relationship with a person that you are attracted to in a real way if one is not really in tune with oneself. So I think it's very crucial to look at oneself through the lens of God. Because obviously, based upon our own evolution as a person, sometimes we picked up negative things and we looked negatively toward ourselves. But I think that honesty period is something that we can say, one, we are not what we do. That's something that I kind of have to tell myself all the time, because society will make us become incarcerated in our past and believe the thing that because of our actions in the midst of our ignorance that we really were that decision, but that's not always the case. So I think that it's very critical for us to be honest, to say, at the end of the day, this is who I am. This is who God has made. All of my uniqueness, all of who I am as an individual may never be understood by the majority. But the fact that I have this within me, it is enough. So I think that the honest confession, that affirmation is a good space. Secondly, I think when you're honest with yourself, you realize how to qualify those that you want to have around you. I believe that those that have your ear have your destiny. So I think it's very critical for us that are honest with ourselves to then get a group of persons that may not always be the same as you, but in some way, the Bible says, faithful are the wounds of a friend. So it's not in no way a negative shape or form, but somebody who can tell you what you don't always want to hear. Somebody that can challenge you to kind of go forward. Someone in those periods where you want to identify with the majority and, the other races, how you can tell us that, Black is beautiful, how you don't have to in some way blend with everybody else. It is what it is. So honesty and friendship and connection with the relationship, I think I'll just leave it as those are the two premises that I think would help somebody create a healthy perspective on how to move forward. Because I think beyond those points, it goes on an individual basis, because it's very difficult. And I think even in the church, we kind of get it twisted that we believe that we can universally create this journey for everybody to live the same life. But I think that throughout everyone's experience, they can find their own uniqueness. But if it starts with honesty and a group of persons, because of that honesty that's connected with them, I think that they can chart out their own journey through that point to loving themselves.
That's good. Yeah.
I love that point about remembering that everybody's journey is different, and that we don't have to be like anybody else. Our journey is our own, created by God for us specifically. I love that point.
And it's funny, we talk about, self-love, and definitely within the African-American community where humility is something that we're not given. And so it's kind of contradicting when you can, when you say like, we're not humble, but yet we struggle with insecurities or self-love. And it's kind of a complicated, conversation, because you're like, well, I don't know, what is it? What can you say, about that, Pastor Will, when you think about like self-love, but think about our community a lot of times can be perceived as, not being humble.
That's powerful, man. A great perspective. I always kind of pinpoint like the Bible, right? And I look at the children of Israel, and when Joseph had died, he was like this person who became like this powerful person in Egypt. The Bible says this next Pharaoh rose up, and he was intimidated by the numbers of the Israelites. And their numbers by itself in some way caused a great level of insecurities. So what he did was burden the people with work, burden them with economics, burden them with everything, in essence, to break their spirit, to cause them to believe what they in some way to subvert or question what they believe. So I think the essence of insecurity and humility, I think it's all a level of, issue of vulnerability. I think that, we
That's good.
simply are the only population that has to always accept, or always apologize. Like, we have to always be the person to always be the bigger picture, or, all these years of slavery, forget about it. If we did it, move on. And I think it becomes, therefore, because we don't want to be vulnerable, we therefore put up these guards that create for us this survival, because being vulnerable has some way shaped, and how we view vulnerability, I guess why I say that, it has some way have diminished our spirit soul. So the only way we can in some way become who we think we need to become is to be arrogant, or to be these people that have, but at the end of the day, it's still insecurity. So humility, is everything.
Yeah.
I think we're in a period now where words are just words, even looking at the political campaign. And it's also
That's
to
good.
Black
Yeah.
love, that they know the key words to say to us, but there is no meaning in it. They know the pinpoint, and you're seeing a shifting in a generation crying out to say, forget the BS, forget about all of the other. Sorry for using BS. I didn't say the word. I just said that.
You're good. It's the safe space.
Right.
Safe space, absolutely.
But we don't want to hear that no more. Like, love operates in truth, and love is not
That's
something
good.
that you can in some way convince me of. It's something that I know, and I think we're dealing with a generation that believes that love is instinctive. It's intuitive. We know what love is. We may not know the words for it. We may not know how to communicate it. We may not know how, quote, it looks, but there's something we feel about it. So I think the essence of humility is challenged because we have yet to see what love is on our exterior. So if we've not seen it demonstrated, we still struggle with how can love even be love within our interior. So I think that those two things are it's all complex. I've just grown excited dealing with an African American population within my church as well as my organization, that I cannot come with a unison answer and a one word line to in some way generalize our entire reality, right? That is so many layers. Some layers seemingly are contradictory, some layers in some way seems redundant, but no matter what, I think our complexities are beautiful. I think our complexities make us who we are. So there's a group of persons that in some way thrive off this notion of humility. But, in essence, it's really not humility. It's just passiveness. And I think that when you really realize what true humility is, when you finally get to that definition in your life, I think it channels how one views love. And when one taps into that love can not only be with oneself, but it can be also shared with others.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And it actually leads to another question, and this more specifically to like the media and society. And so it seems as though when Blacks are, we love ourselves boldly. We love other Black people boldly. In the media, it can be demonized, and it's not necessarily totally accepted in society. When it's done boldly. But how can we continue to love ourselves in the face of such, societal pressure and adversity?
I say that, one, unapologetically live. That's where I'm at in my life. I think, people naturally are intimidated by what they don't understand and what they can't control. And I think that when this generation is rising up, I see more fear than anger. And I think fear and anger goes hand in hand in two. But you're dealing with a centralized media from CNN to MSNBC to Fox to any other network. It's all ran by some few people, right? That's controlling what images they want us to display, right? And based upon what one wants you to believe, it all becomes nothing but propaganda. And this is not even a conspiracy. It's just basic media, right? Basic marketing, basic images. You can hear a song and don't know where you heard the song from, but know all the words because it's subtly feeding us. I think in this day and age, what we need to get with is authenticity. I think once we find out truly who we are, it naturally leads us to live unapologetically. And when you live unapologetically, you don't even care what they have to say. Right. Nothing that they have to say, nothing about their Black, what their perception of Black Lives Matter, which I don't even know why it would be an issue because it is clearly an indication. However, I preached a message called The Day Hope Died. It's also a part of my book that I'm writing. And I really have now gotten to the place I read Between the World and Me, And it was very amazing how the writer wrote it, because it left you just with this raw reality, right? Like, we're black, it sucks. My children are going to have a horrible life because the reality is they are black and they got to live in this horrible world. But I think hope is missing. And I think that when we can provoke hope in a unapologetic African American, I think it makes the matter and how we deal with the situations. I think it makes a difference. So I think that it transcends beyond our trends, because I think that that's what's happening now. Even when we get out there and marching, a lot of us, and I'm not speaking for everybody, because I know a lot of groups, I know a lot of individuals, a lot of friends close to me are very passionate about the movements. So they're about the marches, they're about going where the cry is. But I think we're raising up baby Jesse Jacksons and baby people who thrive off spotlights. And I think that's what's hurting us more than helping us. Because I feel like the Hillary Clintons of this day, we're bought, so anything that they can do to appease us, we shut our mouths. And I think that when you are unapologetically authentic, nothing can make me shut up based upon who I am. Black lives matter because I'm black, and I'm going to live this way. I'm going to love those. So I'm not going to, go and demonstrate in the streets but not support black businesses in my community. Yes. I'm not going to, demonstrate on social media, but in some way find myself connected with community outreach services within my local, area. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the authenticity transcends from you to others. And I think that's when you really see love demonstrated. That's how God's love is so powerful, because it transcends from just the love that directly is from himself and his son, but how his son gave his life when we didn't deserve it. And it wasn't conditional, it wasn't based upon what we did. And I think that when you think about this generation, we are the only generation. I stopped telling my young people, that it's because your hoodie is on, that's why they're killing you. Or it's because your pants are sagging. That's not the reality. That's not the solution. That's not the antidote. Because I realized with the suit on, coming from church, I was put on the side of the road and checked. My car was, checked for drugs just because of who I was. So it doesn't matter what we're wearing. So that's not love, right? It's to tell them how to appreciate yourself, be authentically you, no matter where you are. But I think because there's love, you are more so mindful of the cultures that may not look and think like you. So I think that it's a loaded response, but I think to simplify it, with authenticity, you get an awareness of what you are around. What allows us to recognize how to survive in this day is to know that everybody will not like you. So stop trying to prove that, I learned that you can never prove a hater right. That there was no reason for them to hate you. So there is going to be no reason for you to nothing you're going to do is going to change their mind. So it's like,
that's real.
Just live. You're right. So just live. So I think that we get ourselves in trouble because we try to change the mindset of these people that would never change, no matter what you say and do. This is embedded within them, how to think and how to view us. So if we live unapologetically with those realities and those that bigger picture to say, they may not change. They may not ever say Black Lives Matter, but we know that they do. And I'm going to continue to do what I have to do till I die. It's going to be worth dying for, because I believe in it that much, because I love myself and I love my people. So I'm sorry to give it such a long
that's great. That's good. That's absolutely great. That's great.
Yeah, that's just so awesome. And it's amazing you would mention and speak to so beautifully, Pastor Will, about authenticity, because that's one of the parts of our mantra on this podcast is not only speaking freely, thinking critically, but living authentically. Right. So glad you just went so deep and wide with that. You brought up a great point in talking about, you mentioned Black Lives Matters, and just want to ask a question about that. Because in early February, we saw news of one of the prominent activists of Black Lives Matters, Marshawn McCarroll, committing an apparent suicide on the steps of the state court in Ohio. And so as we put in place these steps to love ourselves and others, what are your thoughts on how we do that in an age where we have to constantly fight to prove that our lives matter? How do we stay sane and practice self-care as we do that?
I think it segues to what I mentioned before. It's that hope element. And I have to distinguish hope now, because hope has been viewed in terms of wishing. It's not a real component. Like, it's not viewed as strongly as what really hope is. Hope is a confident expectation.
Wow.
That in the midst of nothingness, there is something going to come from this. It's what led King to march in Selma, even though before they were beat up brutally, on, Bloody Sunday. It's what got Mahatma Gandhi to sit there and, to be in those, horrible, egregious situations and to stay planted. It's the expectation to change. And I think what creates that expectation is truth. It's a belief in something bigger than us. It's the hope of a greater day. Our country is struggling because we have lost the reality, and we think that because hope is there, that it's ideal, and we naturally think unicorn, and we naturally think it would never happen. But I think in a world that we're living in, we have to captivate and bring to our young people the power of imagination. I think that's the only thing that's going to keep us sane. Growing up, we wanted to be anything. We could be everything. Like it was no limits to what we can do. But I read a book that said when we get older, we start operating more so off memory instead of imagination. And I think it's when you operate out of memory, then you find yourself insane because you find a hopeless reality that because it was never done, it would never happen.
Wow.
But I think it's very difficult for us to get to a place where we shift it and allow ourselves, because I believe imagination is such a powerful component that we as people, even Christians, forget that this is the beauty of how God made us. We're the only beings that have the capacity to see, even Pavlov's law of study. We can see something and have a behavioral effect based upon what's invisible, right? So I think if we can shift our mindset to those realities that, man, despite of what it looks like right now, what can keep me sane, what can keep me thriving off this passion is that it's going to change. We're going to be okay. My son will not experience the life that I lived. That there is something that I have to. And because of that outlook, it shifts my behavior in my now. So I think many times we wait for that next period or, it's so tragic to hear about the Marshawn realities and about these other persons because it can take you out of here. Because I think one of the challenges becomes that the movement shifts from the movement to you, right? And I think what helps us with our imagination is we recognize that it cannot be done with just us, right? And that this is not our battle alone. And I think that if we recognize that this is, something that I'm going to connect with the last disciples, like you guys are my branch. You guys, there's so many, this cannot be done with us. The weight of the world does not have to rest on you. And even in me, in my mentorship, I'm in courts. I've been in court in January. I was in court 3 times before the month was out with 3 separate cases of armed robbery from 3 teenagers separately, right? And, it makes me emotional because sometimes, you don't realize what's going on in their head. But what makes me an effective leader is that I'm present, even though they've not got into a place where they are, because my presence say, it doesn't matter what has been done. I still believe you can change, right? So I think that that's going to keep us sane going forward. Is hope is going to fuel us to know that tomorrow is not just a tomorrow to appease our emotions, but it's a fact to know that maybe it's not going to come when we think it should come, but we know and we have a confident expectation that it will happen.
Pastor Will, I'm so glad that you're on here because, not only are you a community leader and a youth and young adult pastor, but you come from Chicago. Chicago, Illinois, and we've heard so many things about Chicago. There's a movie out by Spike Lee. I don't know if you agree with it or not, but it's called Chirac. So, so there's a lot going on in Chicago, but, just knowing you and seeing how you've been able to live the good life and you've been able to be successful and move to DC and everything. How do you manage the good life, or how do you balance, coming from that reality? How do you balance your good life or your success with still staying woke and still staying aware with what's going on with us in the Black community?
Well, I think it goes back to the honesty piece. I'm not perfect. My life is not perfect. I think that as I go back home, I see the realities of my family. My father was a gangbanger. My cousins are gangbangers. My brother is in the streets, my sister's trying to find a way, and I think that those realities keep me humble and it keeps me moving and pushing forward, that everything I do is impacting somebody else's life. And I think that when I left the government in December, I left with a investment in myself to say, my life is not going to change until I change it, right? And I think that the good life for me is not money. It's not for me fashion or popularity. I think my overall overview of the good life is fulfillment. And I think that I've gotten to a place in my life where the only way I can be fulfilled is if I'm living out my purpose, my God-given intention. And I think that looking from Chicago, coming from a family where the highest level of education was a GED, and living the life is very difficult and managing, and it's emotionally challenging, and you have cycles because you're here by yourself trying to chart waters that's never been charted before, and having to be vulnerable around a group of persons, especially within DC and the political scenery or just the church field. Everywhere everybody's here is just very upper tier bourgeois, and being that that's not my reality, I have to go back to the authenticity piece, and that the only way I'm healthy, the only way I'm whole is when I'm myself. And so I think that with all of those realities that have made me who I am, those things, those rough edges, those things that I don't like about myself, I think it all goes back to Black love. That going into a system in politics and the State Department and bureaucracy where I started off as a male person, where they didn't even look in my eyes when I spoke to them. I wasn't even a person. And to navigate my way up to the 7th floor and working with ambassadors and things of that nature, and to see how the difference of how they treat people that they don't feel are meaningful or significant. Nobody died in that period, right? I was the same me I was as a male person, as I was working on the 7th floor, as I am right now today. I think the only thing that makes me distinct now is that now I've accepted that I am who I am, right? I think that the challenge becomes for us is not only is what we think the good life is. And I think when you know that the good life is the life that you have, that God gave you, knowing that the creator of the world has given you something that the world would never understand, right? The world would never in some way fathom why you have such a life. I just lean to trust him more and to rely on the realities that, hey, my failures get me closer to where I was or where I'm going. And, I just try to live the best that I can every day. And so being from Chicago, I just brought that to DC, and I see the same in the eyes of these young men. I see my brother. In the eyes of these young women, I see my sister. And that keeps me to be honest. It keeps me to be integral. It doesn't allow me to in some way breach the boundaries that's necessary within youth and young adult ministry and my life. It keeps me, pure, because I see my brother and my sister. And somebody said, I'm not my brother's keeper, but I am my brother. And that's what I live by, my brethren. I'm not their keeper. I am them. And when they're hungry, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
That's how. That's the good life for me.
Yes.
I love it.
But definitely give it up for Pastor Will, y'all.
Woo!
Yeah. Thanks for coming through, Pastor Will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I was good. Back and I can be seen, okay?
Yeah. You mentioned the organization. Do you have social media? You have website? What's
So I have a website. I started an organization called WG3 Ministries back in 2013. Also, you can hit me up at Pastor Will G on Instagram, as well as Pastor Will on Facebook. And I think it's the same Pastor Will G on Twitter as well. And my organization is Wise Gentlemen. So you can hit me up, wisegentleman.com. And that's gentleman with the E, not an A. That would be gentleman. But anyway, it's good. It's good to, we have a mentorship program. It's geared toward 13 to 21-year-olds in the inner city. And last year we started it. We have Farnsworth Bentley, who we're under his under his leadership program. He came with us at Howard University back in 2014, and we launched the event. And we have mentors every month. We've done horseback riding to rock climbing, just trying to expose these young men to really shatter the urbanized ideologies that the inner city community give to these young men, to know that, just because you're athletic, and if you're not athletic, does not mean that you're less of a man, that you are who you are. You're a man by your God-given nature and not based upon what culture wants you to think that you are. So that's all it's about. So you guys, pray for us. Man, that we just do the best we can while we can.
Yes, and you are
Yes,
now officially
absolutely.
a friend of the podcast, so we hope to have you on again.
Yes.
So again, thank you so much for joining us. And listeners, please make sure y'all hit up Pastor Will on social media with any questions. As you said, he's available and he's definitely willing to answer.
Yes.
So y'all give it up for Pastor Will once again.
Yeah,
Thank
Pastor
you for
Will.
coming through, Pastor Will.
All right, we
Dope.
appreciate it.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Take care.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow.
That was, first of all, wow, yeah. We've had some very dope and necessary conversation today, y'all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like,
wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow. Like,
Wow.
I wasn't lying about that notebook. I really
Man, look,
gonna
I
get that
started
note.
writing.
You wrote something?
Yes,
Oh,
I wrote.
thanks.
Yes.
Well, that's it, y'all. Episode 5 is officially done.
Hey.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hey.
But of course, before we go, as always, we gotta ask the question: what's good in your life this week? And I will start. What's good in my life this week is that my birthday is coming up, and so the day that God has blessed this world with my presence is coming up to celebrate.
Amen.
So I'm so excited, man. I will be seeing the play Hamilton on Broadway, and that was another gift I told y'all about that y'all were trying to shade me on, but see, God once again honored my honesty, and so bless the Lord. Oh my soul.
That's awesome, and happy early birthday, Swing. For me, what's good is I'm taking a trip with 32 middle schoolers and 1 high schooler for our confirmation retreat for our church is taking. It's going to be me and 4 other parents, all these kids. So I'm looking forward to what kind of adventure that will be.
I think what's good in my life this week, I am so excited, y'all, to be, I really do love my job and just be making a lot of headway at work. Have a conference coming up. I'll be headed out of town tomorrow on a 3-day conference. So excited to get together with other people in the same profession and really just, learn from one another and have great discussions. So I'm really excited about that.
For me, this is the beauty of working in the schools is you get right now in New York City, it's a midwinter recess. And so I will be going down to Atlanta, this week, and, it'll be awesome to visit people that I still know down there, and just, and enjoy my time, my getaway. Atlanta's like a sacred space for me.
Man.
No doubt.
So I won't see you in New York.
I know we'd be flipping. Well, not flipping because you're in DC, but I won't be there.
I won't be there for long anyway, but it would be nice to see you.
All right, y'all. Don't forget to check us out on the web, lastdisciples.info. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/lastdisciples. And also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at lastdisciples. And look us up on Facebook at facebook.com/the-last-disciples. That's THEE Last Disciples.
That's right, Ryan. Also, because of the great response we've been getting from you all, shout out to y'all, we've decided to switch it up a bit and drop our episodes every first Wednesday of every month, which is entitled
Good Life Wednesdays.
Yes, that's right. So tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your sister, tell your dog, tell everybody. And let's continue the conversation, all right? All right, y'all. See y'all next month.
Everybody, on 3, say bye, Stacy. 1, 2, 3. Bye, Stacy.
Who's that? Who's Stacey Dash? Is she related to Dame Dash? Was she on Rockefeller?